Deebo Samuel blocked me on Twitter, but Elon Musk changed the rules on Twitter, so now I can actually see what Deebo tweeted. And about 14 minutes ago, he tweeted something wild. Good afternoon. Welcome to Cohn and Krueger. That's Larry Krueger. I'm Grant Cohn. We were at the game last night. We saw the Niners stomp the Bears. It was Purdy, Garendo, Kittle, Jennings. It was not a whole lot of Deebo. And after the game, he was, all week, for a couple of weeks, people have been asking him, like, so what's going on, man? And not really producing like you normally do. And he would just kind of stand there and not answer the question or answer with two words. He was waiting for the right time to tweet, and he was thinking of the right words to say. And what he tweeted was 16 minutes ago, not struggling at all, just not getting the ball, with about 8 exclamation points and a shrugging emoji. What do you think of Deebo Samuel's take on Deebo Samuel?
He's very consistent. I'll say that. Go look at Deebo's card this year. Yesterday, as a runner, he averaged 2.6 yards per carry. And if you look at what he's averaged for the year, that's pretty much in line with what he's averaged for the year. He averages about 2 yards a carry. So if he's not struggling, why is he averaging 2 yards a carry? He has had 12 games played, 32 carries, 92 yards. So for the year, he's averaged 2.9 a carry. And in this game, he averaged basically 2.9 a carry. So he's not struggling. He's doing exactly what he does. But it's not very much.
And it's like he says he's not. He said what he said. He's not getting the ball. Well, he's the kick returner. He's getting the ball there. I mean, it seems like the Niners are actually going out of their way to give him the ball. They keep handing it to him, and that hasn't worked in years. That he's the kick returner, and he's getting like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 targets a game, even though his route tree is non-existent at this point. It seems like when he gets a target, it's a screen that goes nowhere, or the occasional play action crossing route, which once a month will get him for 20 to 30 yards, like yesterday.
He doesn't. Yeah, I mean, he doesn't really separate against man coverage. If you see a lot of man coverage, you don't see him. Now, he might be a little frustrated, Grant, because the Bears didn't play a lot of man coverage. The Bears played a lot of zone coverage, and he still didn't do much against the zone. He had 2 catches and only 3 targets. So what's he saying? Is he saying that some of Kittle's 6 targets should have come his way, or some of Jennings' 8 targets should have come his way? I mean, he got the 3rd most targets of anybody on the team, and he caught 2 of the 3. I was expecting him. I was kind of telling some people, hey, play Deebo in individual fantasy this week, because our daily fantasy, because I thought, you know what, there's a very good chance he's going to go off, but it didn't happen. So I just think he's lost a step, and he's lost quickness, and he's lost he's got big build-up speed. So he's good if you give him like a kickoff return. He's got 4 or 5 steps. I think he's a return man at this point. I don't think he's got the same quickness or the same acceleration.
Yeah, he doesn't have explosion. He doesn't have a big catch radius. He doesn't beat man-to-man coverage. And on this team, you got George Kittle, who's having a career year. I mean, when Purdy targets him, his quarterback rating is like 145. You got Jennings, who's having a career year. When Purdy targets him, his quarterback rating is about 130. And then Deebo, when he's targeted, his quarterback rating is about 89. So it seems like the Niners can't target Kittle and Jennings enough. And every time they try to force the ball to Deebo, it's almost like doing the defense a favor. Like at this point, I'd rather throw a screen pass to Garendo than Deebo.
Well, I mean, and it would be one thing if like Ricky Pearsall or, some other Cowing or Conley or, Ronnie Bell or somebody that wasn't, another wide receiver was taking his workload. It's not. I mean, and what's Deebo really insinuating? Is he insinuating that he's open, then that Brock Purdy doesn't want to throw it to him? I mean, that's kind of preposterous. We're not seeing Ricky Pearsall say, "Hey, Brock's not throwing it enough to me," and he was only targeted twice all day.
I mean, I think the Niners' target distribution is actually making sense right now. It should be Kittle and Jennings, 1A and 1B. They should get by far the most targets. And then Deebo's, in there with the rest of them. Juszczyk, Guerrero, Cowing, Pearsall. Someone that defenses have to account for. You could keep them honest with them, but not someone you target more than 2 or 3 times a game. And really, 3 feels like it's pushing at this point.
I mean, he's a receiver. I mean, his longest gainer on the game was 8 yards. He had an 8-yard run. He had a 3-yard reception. Or well, no, let's see. He had that
20-yard catch early in the game against zone
reception. That's right. He had 20.
If you play zone, he might get you. But if you play man, he's pretty much out of the game.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, I thought, no more. I mean, we said this a month ago. No more Deebo runs. Why? Because they're wasted plays. They're not giving you anything. You're falling behind the chains when you hand the ball to Deebo. He's giving you 2.5 yards, less than 3 yards a carry as a runner. So I would argue that he didn't deserve the 5 carries that he got.
Right.
I'd rather, truth be told, I'd rather Guerrero get 18 carries and Deebo get 2 carries, not 5.
I'd rather them hand off to Patrick Taylor Jr. than Deebo Samuel.
Of course. He averages more yards per carry.
Yeah, I bet you Israel Abanikanda would be a better option than Deebo Samuel at this point. So when he says he's not getting the ball, he is getting the ball. How many ways can you get him the ball? I mean, handing it to him is the easiest way. Screens aren't working. He doesn't have a route tree. And I just feel like I think he needs to go. I think this has to be his last season on the team. He seems like a malcontent. He was the one that got in the fight with the teammate. It seems like they have this young core that's emerging, and he's not really a part of it. He seems like one of the older players on the team who's declining.
If it was up to me, I just based on what I've seen, I'd switch a couple of the roles on this offense. For example, I would use Deebo a lot more as a returner. Okay, use him as a kick returner, but use him as a punt returner.
Why not?
Use him as a returner. Why?
Yep.
Because Jacob Cowing looks nervous and fidgety and
diving at the ground.
He can't keep his feet and he doesn't look comfortable, and he makes me nervous watching him. He's got to make Schneider nervous, thinking he's going to cost him his job. So I would use Cowing more from scrimmage as a downfield threat. Go to more 3 wides, use him down the field. I like him down the field more, Grant, because you throw the ball down the field to this guy. 1, he's going to catch it. 2, he's going to separate. And 3, the kind of size of the players down the field are generally smaller, and you're not going to take those big hits. As a punt returner, he could get hit by a lineman, a linebacker. He looks like he's ready to fumble. He doesn't look right. So I would say Deebo, here's a few more touches as a punt returner. And Cowing, here's a few more, routes as a receiver. That's the change. That's the only change I'd make.
Hugo De Jesus says, Grant, you wanted to trade Kittle, take it back. I'd take it back. When we first started doing our show, I think that's when I was pushing the idea of trading George Kittle. I thought his career trajectory was going to go the way that Deebo's is going now, because he's a tight end and he's been injured. But man, you could argue he's having his best season yet. I was so wrong. Give him an extension.
Well, I mean, first of all, he's healthy. Okay, so I think Kittle has played lots and lots of NFL games not healthy.
Yeah.
So it's sometimes you look at him and you're like, what is he losing it?
Yeah.
I don't know. Sometimes you just got to wonder how healthy he is. He's healthy right now. And I mentioned it to him in the post game. He's been targeted 18 times in the last month, and he's caught 16 of those balls. So, yeah, he's got to be targeted more. They got to use him more in the red zone. They have to use him more overall in the pass game and try to figure out another blocking tight end, person in the run game. Stop using him as much as a run blocker, even though he's a dominant run blocker. because he means so, especially without Ayuk. This guy means so much to your passing game. You have to you have to free up his energy to be utilized in the passing game. And 6 targets is not enough. I mean, come on, man. So this is one of the best players in the league. This guy's target should be double that. I mean, maybe in this particular game, because of the flow and the pace, maybe it didn't work out. But come on, Grant, this guy's got to get literally 8 to 12 targets a game. He really should. That's what Kelsey gets.
Agree. Mark's the boss. 3 has been a member for 39 months. Thank you so much. All right, we'll get to the rest of the super chats in a minute. Kyle Shanahan spoke today on a conference call, and he was asked about Brock Purdy and Deommodore Lenoir speaking to the team before the Bears game, and Kyle Shanahan said that he asked them specifically to speak to the team. So my question to you is, why do you think Kyle wanted Brock and Lenoir specifically and only them to speak this week?
Gosh, I hadn't really given it a whole lot of thought.
It's interesting, right?
It's always choice. Yeah, all these things.
Not the older guys, 2 young guys.
If it was me, okay, if you said to me, you're gonna get a chance to interview Deommodore Lenoir and Brock Purdy, how do you feel about it? Like, how would you sell that? I would sell that this way. These are the 2 most honest guys on the team as far as answers. Like, these guys can't lie. These guys cannot, Lenoir can't tell you anything but the straight truth. And Brock Purdy, for the most part, answers every question straightforward. I don't know. To me, I'm not sure what you're thinking about, but to me, when I think of those 2 guys, I just think of guys that are respected in the room, but who speak truth almost exclusively.
I love that answer. To me, Lenoir obviously just got paid. He's in the new group of franchise cornerstones, and Purdy, most likely is going to be the next guy who's paid and get into that group. So instead of bringing in someone like Deebo or Juszczyk or Warner or Kittle to bring in like veteran wisdom, Kyle Shanahan let some 2 of the next generation step up and have a voice and assert their voice. And I thought that was really smart, because the Niners have sort of been hanging on to the past, I feel like, all season. It worked last year. They had a specific formula that worked from like 2021 to 2023. And that season, that team is done. That core is old. And they have a young core on this team. And it's very much Purdy and Lenoir. Those are the 2 faces on offense and defense. And it's about time that Kyle Shanahan turns the team over to the youth movement. I mean, it was nice to see him actually bench Brown and not Mustafa. He trusted a rookie, Larry. To me, it's big to see him actually empower the younger players on this team, because they're the ones that are actually earning it.
And it's smart. It's smart, because it's an investment in your room in the future, because really you need your young leaders to start to assert themselves going forward, because the Deebos and the Juszczyks are at the end and probably aren't going to be here next year. I would say Juszczyk certainly is not going to be here next year. Deebo is unlikely to be here next year, but we'll see on that. Deebo, I think, has a better chance to be here than Juszczyk. But yeah, they're both guys that have been the leaders in the past, and I think it's maybe Kyle and the coaching staff saying, "Hey, look, we're going to have a major leadership void here if we don't empower some of our younger leaders and better players to have an increasing voice." And also, I kind of feel like Brock probably would hang in the background, and maybe Lenoir would too, and they wouldn't necessarily, they don't seem like the kind of guys that demand to talk in front of the team, but maybe they're the kind of guys that you want to talk in front of the team.
Also, they're the kind of guys who put in the work every day, whether it's mini camp, OTAs, and everyone knows it. So they don't cut any corners. They don't think they're bigger than the team. And I mean,
they're culture players. They're culture players for this team. They embody the culture that Kyle and John want from the rest of the roster.
They hold themselves accountable too, as opposed to some of the older players, let's say Deebo, who just said, "I'm not struggling. I'm just not getting the ball." I couldn't see Brock Purdy having that mentality. If he's struggling, he knows it. If Lenoir's struggling, he knows it, and they address it. And the fact that they can honestly reflect on what they're doing allows them to excel. And so I think it's really important for the Niners to change their identity from Deebo Samuel leading the team down before the game with the boombox to the seriousness of Brock Purdy and Diamador Lenore. It's a different team.
Well, and Brock often will be like, "Hey, man, I need to be better." It's like, "Hey, why aren't you hooking up with Ricky? I need to find Ricky."
Wasn't that incredible?
It's not Ricky's not open or Ricky's that. No. It's all.
It looked like
hey,
Ricky blew that route, and he was like, "No. Ricky made the right adjustment. I loved what he did. I need to be on the same page." And I was like, "Man, that may or may not be true, but that was good leadership."
And then he said afterwards, another good leadership thing. He said, and then I said to him afterwards, "Hey, man," because obviously they talked, and he's like, "Hey, man, this is going to come together. It's just going to take time." And it is going to take time. Eventually, you got to think Brock Purdy and Ricky Pearsall are made to play together in some ways because they just need field reps. I thought it was coming, man. When I saw them in May in minicamp, I thought, oh, my God, these guys are really going to have this great season together. And it really hasn't formulated. I'm not sure why.
The only thing with these speeches and this team meeting, it feels like this should have happened weeks ago. And like, I grew up watching Steve Young, and that's my idea of like the perfect quarterback. I didn't grow up with Joe Montana. If Steve Young were on this team having this season, he would have had a lot to say to his teammates way before week 14. I mean, nothing against Brock. That's just who Steve Young was, and he was a lot older. But it seems like this is a necessary step in Brock's maturation. Like, you need to be this guy who keeps the team, in check.
I think Steve would have demanded that they fight, earlier in the year. I mean, the one thing that was encouraging about this game is that, the Niners were at their flight or fight point, right? They were either going to tuck tail and call it a season, or they were going to come out and show some resolve and really show extra fight. And I felt like they showed that extra fight, but I wanted to see that literally a month ago. I thought the most interesting part of last night's postgame, Grant, was when George came in at the end and said that, we just haven't had that edge. We haven't had that intensity. We haven't had that whatever resolve, whatever you want to call it. He was like, we just haven't had the intensity.
So
and it's, I don't know if it's anger, focus, whatnot. I don't know. But they haven't had the juice. They're now like in this backs against the wall desperation mode. And now it's like, hey, the true identity is going to come out. And I think it's a room full of guys who want to fight. And it's a room full of guys with pretty good character. And I think, they woke up, and let's see if they can save their season in time. It's doubtful, but if they do, I'll say this. Nobody wants to play the Niners in the playoffs. Not that the Niners are some big, bad juggernaut, but nobody wants to go against Purdy or Kyle or Bosa or Trent or any of this whole roster of guys that have just played in the Super Bowl. The Niners are not necessarily everybody's favorite team to play, I think, in October in the playoffs this year. So if they can get in, maybe they can make something happen and upset some people's plans.
I mean, when Kittle talks about the team like lacking that desperation that they showed in this game, it's the truth. And again, let's bring it back to Deebo, who we started the show with. Like, he sort of embodies the lack of desperation. We're good. I'm good. I'm not doing bad. The team's not doing bad. We can turn it around. Everything's fine. Like, it's Jake Moody's fault. Like, that's one part of the culture. And then you have guys like Lenore, Purdy, Kittle that are like, no, everything's not fine. We have not had the right amount of desperation. Let's show it now. And I think it's great that part of the locker room is winning out, because that's the winner side. The other side is just straight loser nostalgia.
Well, I'll say this too. I mean, beyond that, if we're looking for some kind of, positive out of Deebo's statements here, in the NFL, when you play Sunday and play Thursday, and you got that 2 games in 5 days, it's almost imperative that some new player do something in that second game that didn't do much in the first game. So if Deebo wants to call himself out, if Deebo wants to put the pressure on himself by saying, hey, man, I need the ball. Well, guess what? He only touched the ball 5 times as a runner in this last game, and he touched the ball twice as a receiver. He had 7 touches. If they want to give him 14 touches, 20 touches in this next game and ride him,
Please don't. Please don't.
But all I would say is,
all
I'd say is they're going to have to ride somebody, because you know what? Guarendo's got a foot problem. You don't really have any runners. You got 2 games in 5 days, and it's an incredibly physical sport. So if he wants to call himself out and have some monster performance Thursday night to answer his own call out, then
he kind of has to have a monster performance after that.
Well, I mean, exactly. If you're saying get me the ball, I mean, Kyle's going to get him the ball in this game. Watch.
Yeah,
he's going to get the ball.
Kittle said, get me the ball. He got the ball. Matt McEwen says, can we put a stop to the narrative that Brock carved up an elite defense? Brock's strength is against zone, elite man coverage. He is mid. Okay. A lot of people talking about this game over the Bears, like the Niners found themselves. They got their identity. They're back on track. Are people overreacting to this win over the Bears? I mean, after all, it was the Bears.
Well, I mean, I was on KMBR today with Greg Papa joking, they're back. But I mean,
okay.
Come on. I mean, the big question coming out of yesterday is that question. Was yesterday about the Niners or was yesterday about the Bears?
Yeah.
All I will say is I think the defense was about the Niners. Why? Because I saw the Bears run for 5 yards a carry in a couple games in the lead up to this. And the Niners bottled up the run big time. I thought their defensive effort was really, really strong. They were flying around. Hufanga gives them another defender in the box who knows how to play run defense. That's helped. I thought Campbell had his best game. I thought Mooney had his best game in a long time, long time. Mustafa, Gross Matos, D. Winters was flying, Sam Aquinu, Evan Anderson. I mean, they had some guys playing up front. So I think defensively, I want to give the Niners credit where credit's due. As far as defensively, offensively, this Bears team, they didn't have a lot. I mean, they didn't show a lot. They didn't look like a lot to me. Montez, I'll give the tackles credit. Jalen Moore and McKivitz shut down Montez Sweat and Darrell Taylor. The Bears had 3 hits on the quarterback all day. Mm-hmm. So I mean, and
Jalen Moore, who the hell are you?
Blitz. What's that?
Jalen Moore, who the hell are you?
Jalen Moore, who knew? Who knew? Jalen Moore, yeah.
He's been here forever. I love how the Niners have these guys that are just chilling on the bench for like a presidential term. And then they get on the field and it's like, oh, you're good. You can start. That's like Jauan Jennings is one of those guys. I love it.
Yeah, and Jalen Moore is definitely one of those guys.
Yeah.
Jalen Moore, I'll tell you too, it's like the locker room can be, different areas, different moods and different vibes. Man, you go over to Jalen Moore, he's got a smile on his face. He's, eating a sandwich. He's just happy.
No one's ever trying to talk to him. He's hanging out. But now that's all about to be different.
I mean, he's just chilling. I've interviewed him a couple times. He's just the happiest guy there is. I mean, he's a good football player. I thought Ben Barch, he went out in this game, but I thought Barch looked like, he looks like a player,
That's the thing with Barch though. He's gotten injured.
Yeah. But it makes me wonder though, if they wanted to move on from Brendel, how would Barch do as a center? Because he played center. So
I liked him. He just have to stay healthy.
Yeah. He's kind of high cut. He got rolled up on from behind on a run block.
Didn't he have like a dislocated knee in the past? He's had some lower leg, some issues with his legs. If I'm wrong.
He's kind of long. He's kind of long cut. He's kind of a tall center. But no, I mean, Moore's played well. Barch has played well. So I would say defensively, that was a great effort, and I liked what I saw. They made Caleb, who at times looks really good. I mean, I think it's really clear when the Niners shut down the run, they're a world's better, and they don't shut down the run much, but they shut down the Bears run, and every single time they got to third down, whether it was Malik Collins or Yatir Gross-Matos, Leonard Floyd, somebody stepped up and made an impact play and got him on the ground on third down. So 7 sacks. I mean, I got to think a few of them were on him since he came in with 49.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. The only thing about the defense is in the second half, they gave up the touchdown drive in the first series, then freaking Caleb Williams fumbles, and then they have a touchdown drive in their next series. So it's possible that the Niners were just kind of in like not a prevent defense, but a softer zone because they're up by like 30 or 24 or whatever. And I mean, really, Caleb Williams was just throwing like little 7-yard outs the whole game. He never really threw a pass that really threatened the 49ers. So in that sense, they did a really good job. I'm curious to see what they'll do against, obviously, Stafford and Goff, what they can do against more playoff caliber opponents. But like you said, those defensive linemen really stepped up, from Gross Matos to Floyd to Collins. They hadn't done anything like that all year. To do that without Bosa, that's a big deal. I still think, though, that like anything the Niners did yesterday was going to work. The Bears, let's talk about the Bears for like 60 seconds. Damn. That's all I have to say.
They have talent. They're hurt. DJ Moore, that wasn't the DJ Moore that the rest of the league saw this year. He was totally hurt.
That first half was some of the worst football I've ever seen from an NFL team.
Yeah, they had 4 yards. They were terrible. They were absolutely terrible. I'll say the other thing that stood out in this game, the Niners got their explosives going, and the defense just gave none. I mean, the Bears had one double-digit run. They had a 10-yard run from Caleb. That was their longest run. They did not have a 20-yard pass play. They had a 17, a 14, and a 14. But other than that, I mean, it was hardly any explosives for the Bears, and the Niners had a bunch.
Yep, absolutely. James says, what do you think about Talon Gree, 6'6", 230, 444 as a draft prospect? You already know I've never heard of that guy.
I've never heard of him.
Well, that was a deep cut. I'll look into him.
Seriously.
Michael says, locker room not lost. Deebo, hold my beer. Oh, Deebo. Dilly G says, double Deebo with cheese. I'm sorry, I made up that nickname. Has officially lost his mind. I've never seen a player lose this amount of respect from a fan base in such a short time. It is interesting to see Deebo's career go like this while Kittle's career goes the other direction. I don't know what I'm doing with my hands, but you know what I'm trying to say. Didn't expect it. Sean says, I'm a little disappointed in you, Grant. Oh, you sold me on the Bears? Yeah, that was my bad. Been in a lot of close games against good teams, and then post-game said it's the Bears. They were trash. I thought that was a bit unfair. Okay, fair enough. What I want to say about the Bears is I think we were all kind of expecting that firing Eberflus would help. And I don't think that firing their head coach helped. I think that was the end of their season. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they're going to have a really competitive game next week. I think they're dead.
They looked so much better against the Packers a couple weeks ago than they looked in this game. I don't know. Maybe it's like you're freezing in Chicago and you get a nice West Coast trip and you're in 70 degrees and maybe you just are like, hey, man, maybe you lose all intensity. I don't know. I don't know what happened to them, but, you know.
Maybe it was the 6th loss in a row. Maybe it was the 7th loss in a row.
They were playing better ball than the Niners coming in.
They were.
There's no doubt in my mind. They were playing better in the last month than the 49ers. They were. So take it for what it's worth. It's the way you play the day you play.
Okay. All right. I got one more. Who is better, number 15, JJ or Crabtree?
Ooh.
They're similar.
I mean, Crabtree was a bigger talent. Let's be honest. He was the 10th pick in the draft. He had great hands. But JJ, you know, Crabtree, they threw Crabtree the ball in the big moment. We know what happened. And if you threw JJ those balls, something tells me he would have caught one of them. So I'll go with JJ. To me, Jauan Jennings is, his nickname should not be Third and Jauan. His nickname
so much better than that.
His nickname should be Big Money.
Jauan
Big Money Jennings, because that's what he is. When there's big money on the table, that guy rises to the occasion. And all Niner fans, every single one of you watching this, and by the way, lots of people yesterday told me at the stadium that this is their favorite stream of the week when we get together. Thank you for that, guys, at the stadium. But I'll say, definitely, when there's money on the table, Jauan Jennings rises to the occasion. He is the ultimate big money player. He's just, there are better players, but then there's money players. and he is big money. There's
And he's
money on the
definitely not
table.
a diva. Crabtree was a little bit of a diva. Crabtree was better than him. Before Crabtree
was
tore his
talented.
Achilles, he was a yak threat. He was a pretty good route runner. He could create big separation. The thing with Jennings is like, does he create a lot of separation? No. Is he a yak guy? He'll break a tackle, but no. But he kicks ass. And it's hard to explain why. He just makes the catch. He just makes the catch. And he's really freaking good at everything. He's the kind of player every team wants.
You know he's going to catch the ball.
You know it.
I'd love to interview Brock Purdy about how he feels about Jauan Jennings, because he goes to him in big moments all the time. I mean, even like, I'll give you the first play of the game. First play of the game, he runs an out, and he wasn't even open, but Brock put it on his hands, and he caught it, first down, or, first play, nice catch, 7-yard gain, whatever it was. He doesn't need a big window to catch it. He can catch it in a crowd. He's got great hand-eye coordination. How about, I know the one that was amazing. I was just watching it before I walked in here. How about the double catch Jauan Jennings saves Brock Purdy easily 5 or 6 interceptions a year with how he fights for the ball. How about the one yesterday, Grant, where he caught it, it popped into the air, it was going to the other guy, and somehow it bounced off the other guy, and Jauan caught it a second time. Jauan is he's
quite a good player. William Engelman says, I said the same thing yesterday, but the only thing that made Deebo a starter was his rack. Without rack, he is a below average route runner with bad hands. Might be the worst contract in the NFL currently. So far this year, he's got 4 broken tackles on the season. There were times he would have 20 in a season. So
look how they utilize him. The hitch doesn't work.
Nope.
The end around doesn't work.
Nope.
The handoffs don't work.
Nope.
You got to somehow figure out a way to get him 3 steps. If you can get Deebo 3 steps, he's dangerous. But it's hard to get him those 3 steps before he gets corralled and tackled.
You know how you get him those steps? Special teams. Special teams. Hell yeah. Hold on. El Cortez says, hope the Niners become the 2007 Giants. Coping. Could be. Could happen. James says, Taylon Green, quarterback. Oh, okay. We'll check out the quarterback, Taylon Green. Frank Tom Motion says, can we get a Cohn, Larry Krueger, Dieter video? Oh, I think we got to do that at some point. I like Dieter. Big Deets. Jeff Caravella says, I like Dieter a lot. Yeah, when did Deebo start dressing in these peculiar outfits? Is there a correlation between? I'm not going to read that. But I do think once you start putting in a little too much effort into your outfits, I don't know. Let's get into the Bet US portion of the show. Okay. Show is, of course, sponsored by Bet US, and they're definitely the sports book of choice for the Cohn Zone and the Krug Show. Yeah. The Niners now 2-point favorites on Bet US over the Rams. I guess, you get the 3 points at home. This would be sort of a pick 'em if maybe the Rams would be favored if it was a neutral site, but it's not a neutral site. It's a Thursday night game. It's in Santa Clara. What do you think?
Man, it makes me nervous. I had money on Buffalo yesterday, so I watched that game while I was watching the second half of the Niner game. And Buffalo's defense put no heat on Stafford. And if you don't put heat on Stafford, you will lose. And if the Niners don't put heat on Stafford, they will lose. The Niners, when they played the Rams the first time, they didn't even have Cooper Kupp or Puka Nacua. Those guys yesterday had 17 catches and 250 yards and 3 touchdowns. So I guess I would say this game scares the hell out of me. If the Rams do this week or next week what they did this week, the Rams will win. I guess the Niners, I'll go with the Niners, and I might want to just not go with the spread. I don't like 2-point spreads. It's almost like Vegas telling you this game's going to be hairy. So I think I might go with the money line. Niners on the money line. Yeah.
Let's go with the money line. That's a savvy wager from Larry Krueger right there. I would have went for the point spread, but Larry makes a good point. Money line. They also got it at 48.5 for the over under. So they're expecting the Niners to win 25-23, something like that.
Yeah. And that sounds about what I would expect, though the Rams put up 40 yesterday. So
yeah, that would be, it's true. Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp didn't play in that first game, but you know who else didn't play? George freaking Kittle. Stone Cold Kittle. So you know what? Putting down the money line, $100. I get a 72.50. Confirm it.
Nice.
Yeah, absolutely. Go check out BetUS and receive 150% bonus on your first 3 deposits up to $2,000 with code YouTube150. Let's get into this Rams game. What do you think the toughest matchup for the 49ers will be in this game?
Somehow, I mean, to me, the Rams are very challenging. Why? Because Stafford's got a gun. He's seen everything. So there's nothing you can't fool him at the line of scrimmage. And then he's got answers like hot route, answers right off the line of scrimmage if you want to pressure him in his face. And then he's got a vertical threat in Tutu. So he's got, I mean, they're just incredibly difficult to defend. You have to defend verticals and you have to defend guys off the line of scrimmage and all kinds of stuff within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. I would say the key has got to be stopping Kyren Williams. If you don't stop Kyren Williams, you won't have any chance to beat the Rams. Now, they're not a great rush offense. They're 25th in the NFL at running the ball. And they didn't run the ball well yesterday. But what they do is they stick with it. They stick with it. They'll run 25, 30 times and get 3 yards a pop. And it's just a little bit of a, while you're thinking the illusion of balance, but really they're doing all the damage with the passing game. So I think you have to take away Kyren, because if Kyren has success, you will lose for sure.
That was a good answer. I wasn't gonna go there at all, but I like the case you made for Kyren. He keeps them balanced, and they have to be balanced to win, kind of like the Niners, because that's their philosophy. I'm gonna go with Puka Nacua. Here's the thing: I feel like Cooper Kupp will be in the slot a lot. He's gonna go against Lenore, and that's a solid matchup for the 49ers. But Puka Nacua is going crazy. He's extremely hot, and he had 12 catches in the last game for like 160 yards or something. So how do I do this gently? Last time the Niners played the Rams won at Traverse Ward, and they got him deep with Tutu Atwell. I mean, the Bears went at Ward yesterday. He gave up a touchdown to who's 15, Roma Dunze.
Yep.
They're coming for him. You know what I mean? It's a cruel world. The Rams have no sympathy for what the Niners are going through, what Ward's going through, and he's got to be ready for that. I mean, I'm not saying he's going to be giving up 100 yards, but in the red zone, they're looking at him. So this is sort of like this is what you call a must-win game. The Niners have to be kind of, they can't let him get picked. They can't let anyone get picked on. So if it's Renardo Green getting picked on, bring in Isaac Yiadom. If it's Various Ward getting picked on, bring in Isaac Yiadom. Yiadom is having a good year, and they have to have a quick hook in this game. I'm sorry.
The guy who I thought played, I didn't even notice him in this game, but when I just looked at PFF and their evaluations, they gave him a good mark, is Renardo Green. Renardo Green, according to PFF, had a phenomenal game yesterday. I think the 49er secondary with Hufanga back and with Renardo Green peaking and Lenore, doing his thing, I like the way it sets up. They're going to be challenged in this game, but to me, it's all about up front. You got to make Stafford feel your defensive line. He's got to feel your defensive line. But if he does, I think the 49ers might be able to stand up better than we think. I know the 49ers pass defense is third in the NFL. They give up 182.6 passing yards, partially because teams run on them a little bit more than they want, but it's also because they got some good young DBs. And those good young DBs are starting to, now we're at that point of the year, starting to get a little bit more experience. So if they can cook some pass rush going up front, if Gross Matos, if Bosa can come back, if Floyd can keep playing, I expect Floyd to have a monster game against his former team. Leonard Floyd has 5 sacks, Grant, in the last 2.5 games. So Leonard Floyd is in a contract, he's in a contract drive. I mean, he always gets 10 sacks. And it's like I thought he wasn't going to get him this year, but it looks like he's going on a run here. So Floyd, Yatir Gross-Matos, Sam O, Bosa coming back. The other one that's kind of, I'm a little discouraged about this afternoon is I thought Dre Greenlaw was coming back, and it sounds like it may not be until the Miami game.
Let's talk about that. What do you think the realistic expectations should be for Dre Greenlaw when he eventually does come back? I mean, there's a lot of pressure on these games. These are all playoff games essentially, and having Greenlaw comes back seems so like Willis Reed. It's very like a fairy tale. But what is the reality here? What can he really be expected to give this team?
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard to say. It's really hard to say because we're talking about the most serious injury in the sport, Achilles, and he ruptured it. But I've been told from people who have had the Achilles that once you had the surgery, they lock in the Achilles and you can like almost never rupture it again. So I don't know about his conditioning or how he's moved at practice. We've only gotten really small glimpses. And I don't have a good feel for how he's moving yet. So I can't really say firsthand. He looks great. I haven't seen him look great yet on the field, but I think that if he's in decent condition, I think he can get back to what he was in short order. I don't think we're going to see a diminished player. I think modern medicine has gotten to the point where they can put you back together and you don't lose a lot. I don't think Achilles is where you lose speed. I think it's other injuries that cause you more speed. So we'll have to see, but I'm hopeful that he can be very similar to the player who he was.
Sure. I'm hopeful he can as well. I just wonder in his first games back if you could just put him at weak side linebacker and tell him play 100% of the snaps. I don't think that's probably prudent or fair. So I think maybe he's a strong side linebacker at first, and maybe he gets 30% of the snaps in his first game and then 50% of the snaps in the second game. I think that'd probably be the best way to go about it. Start him slow, give him a package, and then go from there. I think that's sort of what I'm getting at with him. I don't think you can necessarily expect him to play against the Rams or the Dolphins and just be like, boom, first game back is Dre Greenlaw. I don't know about that.
I don't know either. Yeah, and he's been out a long time. I mean, he hasn't played since February, and he plays kind of a position where it's a little bit of a feel. So, I'm not sure what to expect. I'm hopeful that he's incredible. We all know what kind of player he is, but you're right. I mean, there's no guarantees. And as far as how they structure it, man, I love what I'm seeing out of D Winters the last few weeks. I mean, this game, he was really flying. I mean, he's always been plays fast, but he was really flying around in this game. And I just think they need that speed. They need that second level speed. And he needs to not fall off tackles and secure a few more. But man, if D Winters can continue to improve, if Campbell gets a little bit better, maybe, they can give Greenlaw the kind of the slow ramp up that he may need.
Gold-blooded says Jauan's nickname should be the contestant. All he does is make contested catches. He's a lot of fun to watch. I like watching him. He should be a captain next year.
He's amazing, man. He's an amazing guy. Here's the other thing, too. So, I like to sometimes ask, do interviews in the locker room and ask players non-football questions if we're just messing around. And so one of the questions I've asked through the years is, hey, man, shit's going down, whatever. You're in a bar, shit's going down. You can have any guy in this room covering your backside. Who do you want rolling up covering you? And guys it's hilarious when I ask the question, Grant, because guys literally will start looking around the room like, yeah, who would have my back, And there was a lot of Kinlaws through the years because Kinlaw is just a monster.
I'm picking Kinlaw too. I'm picking Kinlaw too.
There's a lot of Greenlaws.
I definitely want Kinlaw to have my back for sure.
Yeah, the violence of Greenlaw. But JJ, I mean, how many people name a wide receiver as the toughest guy in the room? But there were several guys who'd be like, yeah, Jauan for sure, man. Jauan.
You know who Jauan kind of reminds me of? And not necessarily his style of play, but like his trajectory from being a 7th round guy to a slot guy to being a number 1 option? Julian Edelman.
Yeah.
Julian Edelman. 7th round pick.
Different kinds of players, of course. But
yeah, totally different. But the same way they worked their way into being a featured guy, just being a maniacal player.
Well, and here's the thing too. When they drafted him, so many people from Tennessee were like, "This guy's awesome," and I'm like, "He ran no idea." He ran 4.76. There's backup.
Yeah, the Niners were still more intrigued by Jalen Hurd, and Vols fans were like, "No. You don't
Yeah,
understand.
seriously, Tennessee fans were like, "Oh, you don't realize you got this guy. Oh, this guy's amazing." And usually I figured, oh, well, he probably had a couple big college catches, and but he's probably not that great. I get it. I get it. I totally see it now. It's like this is the guy. You know what I mean? I mean, this guy is. If you could clone this guy and put every guy on the team with this kind of toughness, this kind of determination, this kind of fire, you'd win every Super Bowl, man. You'd win every Super Bowl. Guy's a hell of a player. He really is.
Okay, last topic. What are the keys to victory for the 49ers this Thursday night against the Rams? Or what is the number one key? What is the number one thing they need to do to win this game?
Well, the Rams did get a punt return in this last game. So you got to, you can't fold on special teams. Okay, that's one.
Kick the ball past the 20 on the kickoff, Jake. That's two.
Stafford must feel the 49er defensive line or they have no chance. He has to feel your defensive line. He's so predictable. He's this guy that if he feels your defensive line, the errant passes, the timing's off. I mean, he's not the same guy if you hit him a couple times. If you don't hit him a couple times and he gets into a rhythm, you get the 44-point Buffalo, you get what the Buffalo Bills saw yesterday, and there's no answers. So I would say you got to cover on the back end for sure, but you have to Stafford has to feel your defensive line or you're cooked.
Because he really is an elite quarterback. Like when he has a little bit of time and space, he can make every throw that Josh Allen can make, and he showed it on Sunday. Okay, I'm going to go a different, the other side of the ball. In must-have-it games, sometimes Kyle Shanahan loses because he doesn't get the right people involved enough. So in the Super Bowl, I still wonder what would have been if Deebo didn't get 11 targets. He caught 3 of 11 targets. What if he had just had 3 targets and the rest went to Jennings and Kittle? Maybe they win that game. So all I want to see Kyle do is put the team's best foot forward. Please. This is a must-win playoff game. Kittle needs as many targets as it freaking takes. If it's 15, it's 15. If it's 20, it's 20. And the same goes for Jennings. You don't need to make Deebo happen now. If he's hot, then great, go with it. But otherwise, please just get the right players the ball. That's all I'm asking from you, Kyle. You don't have to be smart. You don't have to be clever. Just get the right players the ball, please. Kittle. His name is George. That's it.
Seriously. I mean, George Kittle has been underutilized to this point.
His whole career.
But I mean, this year especially.
Yes.
I mean, he is so underutilized. He's fresh. You're in December and he's fresh. Just ride the hot hand. That's what I would say to Kyle. Ride the hot hand. Ride JJ and Garendo. We haven't really talked that much about Garendo, but man, Garendo is real. And the other part of Garendo's game that surfaced in this game is Garendo's got great hands. You can see it. This guy doesn't have good hands. This guy's got great hands. So
he's a check down threat. He's a screen threat. He's a deep threat.
He's a deep threat. How about this? That I'd love to see them run that play where they have Garendo out of the backfield and they just throw it to him on kind of a go route out of the backfield, almost like a hot, just straight.
Well, that's how we caught his ball at the goal line yesterday in the sun. It was kind of like that. Yeah.
And maybe don't loft it quite that much up in the air.
Right.
Because that was Brock saying, "Hey, I'm just going to give you a chance to go get it." And I think
Brock got hit on that play. I think he threw it early a little. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah,
but it felt like the Christian McCaffrey play from Tampa.
Yeah, and then the other key in this game is the Rams have one of the great edge rushers I've seen come out of the draft in a long time. Jared Verse reminds me of so much of Charles Haley, and you say, why does he remind you of Charles Haley? Because he comes out and just eviscerates you with strength. You look at him and you're like, yeah, this guy's like 6'5", 240. He's a speed guy and he can get you with speed. But this guy is so damn strong, and Haley was so damn strong kind of like Lawrence Taylor. I mean, just crazy strength. And Jared Verse and Braden Fisk are going to put a lot of pressure on Jalen Moore and Colton McKivitz. And those two guys have to stand up against those two edge pieces.
My question about this game is Garendo. He's got a foot. Well, first Kyle Shanahan called it a foot sprain. Then he called it an ankle sprain. I don't know what it is, but it's probably not going to be 100% healthy for this game. Do they need him do they need him out there to win this game? Can they win without him?
They can win without him, I think, but he's so dynamic. And it's like, runner, receiver. I mean, he's so dynamic. I'll say this too. I thought Shanahan did a really nice job in this game. I know, there's people have been critical of Shanahan. I've been one of them from time to time. You've been one of them from time to time. In this game, he knew that Garendo was the guy, but he also kind of knew that if he just handed him the ball in the same type formations, that the Bears would, get all kinds of hits on him. And I thought Kyle was outstanding in his usage of Garendo as far as he moved around. He used him in different runs, different passes. I love that little route out of the backfield. It was kind of a delayed route. He just kind of came out of the backfield. Brock, faked it, to one side, and then he's got Garendo just kind of crossing his face, and that's a real easy pass for Brock, and love to see that a few more times. I mean, it just seems so easy. And then this kid's catching the ball that naturally, and he's got that kind of foot speed. Obviously you got to get him healthy, but if he's not healthy, he can't play. But if he's healthy, God, man, get this guy the ball. I mean,
my only quibble is that I think they overused him. I mean, he's never been a bell cow back. He's never been a starter. You gave him 15 carries and some catches, and he got hurt. And I feel like the one thing Kyle's finally adjusted and featured Kittle and featured Jennings, and he's done a great job. But please rotate. Well, it's a little late now, but look how Ben Johnson keeps his running backs fresh. Look how the Bucks keep their running backs fresh. Use two. Split the carries. It'll make them both better. You did it in Atlanta with Devontae Freeman and Tevin Coleman. You did it in 2019 with Tevin Coleman and Raheem Mostert. Please. I'm asking so nicely.
The other thing I thought was a great thing that has to be brought up in this game is that Kyle Shanahan, I know Kyle, if he heard this, he would really be pissed off. But I felt like he took a page out of Ben Johnson's red zone book in this game. If you watch the Lions, Grant, they got a lot of speed with Jamison Williams and Jahmyr Gibbs and all that, but they do on the goal line. They do a lot of east-west stuff, and they get guys. They create space by running a lot of east-west stuff. That touchdown pass from Purdy to JJ. He's lined up right. He does a cross. All the action is going one way. Here's JJ coming the other way, and Brock threw him the ball, and it was either going to be caught by JJ or it was going to go out of bounds. There was no chance of an interception. I thought some of the red zone play calling in this game was the best red zone play calls I've seen from the Niners all year. Much more east-west, much more putting the defense in a decision-making posture where they got to choose, kind of pick their poison. I was impressed by that. I want to see more of that. I want to see more east-west guys, make defenders choose. Mahomes does it. Reed does it. They do it expertly. Ben Johnson's been getting guys open, going with that east-west motion all year. The Niners haven't done that a lot. And in this game, they did.
Also, Garendo is a pretty good goal line back. Underrated part of
He hits it up there hard, doesn't he?
He does. And the Niners haven't been scoring rushing touchdowns in the red zone this year, which is the easiest way to score. I'm poor, says Brock audibled, under center to shotgun. Was that one of the can calls? Can.
Yeah.
Can.
Well, that was the other thing. Brock was under center more in this game than I don't have the percentages, but he definitely was under center more in this game than I remember in the last month.
Well, that wraps up Cohn and Krueger's powered by BetUS for today. It's an abbreviated week. Larry and I will be down at Santa Clara tomorrow Usually the day off, we're going to be there talking to Kyle Shanahan, Nick Sorensen, Chris Forrester, Brock Purdy, everyone, I would imagine within an hour and a half, it's going to be power packed day. And then they play on Thursday, and then that's the season. Or
they win, and then it's on to Miami.
Going. Yeah, that's right. I'll be on to Miami. Larry, great stuff today.
Good stuff, man. We'll see you down there tomorrow.
See you down there tomorrow. Thanks for watching, y'all.